Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflicts, your weekly developer podcast, talking all things about application development. And Frank, this week, we both built new apps.
Yeah, James, I actually built two. But while away on assignment, I had two jobs. One was play catch with kids, and the other one was to write a one-day app. I tried to write a one-day app. You know, we're famous for trying to write one-day apps. I'm curious how many days you spent on your app because I spent more than one day on mine.
Oh, that's pretty good. I love one-day apps. I love 1 hour apps. I love 15-minute apps, but I love
Mm.
that in any of those combinations, those apps take much, much longer than that because you keep tinkering with them, adding more features, figuring out how to ship them and how to do stuff. Your app is much, much more impressive than mine. So let's start with yours, actually, because yours actually does real world things. And my assumption here, and Heather asks, Frank, are you looking to get a new pair of glasses, perhaps?
Perhaps. But what really happened was a friend of mine was going to get some new glasses, and online they wanted to measure your pupillary distance, James. And what they recommend is you stand in front of a mirror and put a ruler up to your eyeballs. And I'm like, that is not science. I don't know how anyone's going to do that. So my friend did a bunch of measurements. I did a bunch of measurements on the friend. Every measurement we did came out different. So I was like, I feel like there's a million sensors on these phones and things. So I thought I'd try to write an app to measure your pupillary distance for you automatically. And that's the app. One day, right? That's all it takes.
1 day, all it takes. Oh, there's the joke on the pod. Oh, it's got dark mode. The joke on the
Mm,
pod is that it takes 1 day to build and 1 week to ship. My
yeah.
pupillary, those of you. Okay,
The distance
so
between your pupils.
okay, yes. So the application is called. It's got a very nice icon, which with no name. So now I got to go find the name. It's called. Don't tell me. I already gave it a 5-star review. It's
Thank
called.
you.
Got to go to my apps. Pupillary distance ruler. It's exactly what it is. So that's a
Yeah.
good name.
I'm all about the SEO. You can
Yeah.
search for pupil distance and pupil distance ruler. There actually aren't too many apps like this on the store, so it's good to be there. And
Also, I
okay.
will say that
Hmm.
somebody copied my Fearless upgrade, which is like this little icon that says GoPro. That's very nice. Very liquid
Uh,
glassy of you. Wow. That's
well,
good
this was my
enough.
first new icon, also iOS 26 icon with multiple layers. I
Mm.
had I spent way too much time, so I thought it came out kind of cute. The icon is a little cross-eyed guy with a ruler on him. I don't know. I think it's one of my cuter icons. I usually
But
go for pro, but this
the
is cute.
rule the ruler also looks like his mouth, so that's looks very good. It's a very good
Thank
icon.
you.
Whoever built
I
that.
appreciate it. Yeah,
So
that took a
you
day.
that yeah.
Talk about one day apps.
So you open the application and it's super
Hmm.
creepy. So you just say scan measure PD, and it puts a mesh overlay on top of your face, which is it's kind of like the one that's in your your face unlock ID.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
you get that for free.
It's
You don't have to do
exactly that
mesh
one.
work. Is it?
Hmm. It's exactly that one. Yes. This is the Face ID sensor, but you can't call it that in an app because that's Apple's technology. It's the true depth camera, but I don't actually record any true depth stuff. I'm using the augmented reality automatic kind of facial detection stuff. And if you're not watching the stream, James is making a bunch of faces into it because half the fun of the app is just watching it track your face. It's kind of hilarious and
It's
creepy
pretty
because
good.
it puts little blue icons over your eyeballs.
Yep.
But it's kind of fun just for that. It's a free app, so just go try it anyway. Um, and it's these Face ID cameras have been on these phones forever now. And I feel like we're just not making enough use of them yet. Obviously, like Apple has like memojis and stuff like that, but uh, this was kind of a lot of the work was done for me in the Apple APIs. I want to do a bit more work myself to increase the accuracy even more. I think it can still be off by a millimeter, and I want to get that down to be even more precise. But yeah, it's kind of cool because it's just using that sensor that's in pretty much all iPhones these days.
Yeah, and this is an iPhone 11 Pro. And yeah, it worked great. I was like 62.56. It did go 63 here and there. But yeah, and
Yeah.
it does averages, so you can do it over and over and over again, which would be probably what you want to do.
Yeah.
Different lighting, different things. You want to kind of get that. It's better than a
That's
measuring, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You make up for lack of accuracy by many measurements. So yeah, go to multiple environments and take a million of these because it's pretty fast to do the capture, I think. And I'm saving only a minimal amount of information. I'm doing a lot of filtering to try to remove like all the weird artifacts that can come in. Since not giving like crazy stereo vision or anything like that.
So, did you build this? Did you vibe this? Like, what was the flow for this application? Because when we talk about one day apps,
Yeah.
it's not always a. I mean, so let me call out a few things here. So, not only does that, which is this true depth sensor mesh overlay, has multiple user accounts, which means there's a little SQLite database in there, obviously. It has StoreKit 2 inside of there, which I can see with a nice GoPro. It's got some gradients on the
Oh yeah.
GoPro Forever or GoPro Yearly, which why would you ever do that? Oh, I'm about to buy it. Don't buy it. Don't do it.
You
Um,
give me some
uh,
money.
no, I refuse. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/merge conflict of them. You can donate. We split that. Yeah, you got a little liquid glass in there, and you have contact support, terms, EULA. You got a beautiful app icon. You got some nice animations with the glassiness inside of there, which is nice. Light and dark theme app icon support. The dark theme is very nice, very cute. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not super complex, but also it's relatively complex because you're doing true depth detection. But the rest of the app is just some good old crud and nice presentation.
Yeah, and oddly enough, that CRUD and presentation is what took longer than the actual engine. I had the engine running pretty well in one day and then
Hmm.
improved it over a second day. So we had just done an episode about spec-driven development before I got into this.
Yeah.
So I tried using the spec design tool, but I got a little bit frustrated with it. But I still took kind of a spec first approach in that I talked to an AI, we brainstormed about what features could be in the app, what APIs to use in particular. Um, all the stuff that like you would normally just sit there and ponder yourself as you go for a walk. Now you can actually just bounce it off an AI. So I wrote a functional spec, then I wrote a technical spec, and then I did what I never normally do, but I think this was kind of smart, and especially for a small app, I wrote the like app store description first. I'm like,
Ooh.
here's what the app's going to be, and here's how it's going to operate. I didn't do any like screenshots or anything like that, but it felt good to get like, okay, here is the feature set that I actually want to hit. Now I can just work through that list and get to it. Like I said before in this podcast a million times, I really prefer the waterfall technique. So I'm really enjoying this kind of like design everything up front. Of course, it's going to change over time, but so I did a lot of AI design up front, and I really enjoyed that, I have to say.
Now, did you I like the ideation here. Yeah, I agree. Spec Kit, which I've seen now many times with Dan. I've watched a lot of his videos of putting in an existing app and big, this and that, and different big projects. I think for this type of app, it might be a little bit overkill, in my opinion, to go through that entire flow. There's like a constitution, there's ideas, and there's features. Now, if this app was to grow a lot and you were to add a lot of new things to it, which are not, then I think that would be good. However, it sounds like what you did, and I think that's the idea of it. There's kits, there's practices, techniques, and everyone's a little bit different. And it seems like you went down a path which was, like you said, incorporating some of these core ideas. And I love the idea of here is the App Store um, description first, unlike what normally people do is here's the features I got into the app, and I hope it makes it into the App Store listing. And you write it last, and you have to remember what it is in this application. So, did you feed
Yeah.
these things to some AI assistant stuff? Like, what was your vibe? Obviously, this is a 1 megabyte app, so it's all Swift UI, obviously. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it nice and tight and short. So I had it generate basically mm, I want to say the bulk of the app, but I ended up basically rewriting everything that the AI wrote. But it
mm,
was nice because it kind of spits out kind of a first draft. It's still not very good at Swift. FYI, these AIs are kind of terrible at Swift, but once you go and fix its bugs, I had to like set up a lot of the little things, like making sure that the AR session was running correctly. Um, it was really bad at doing graphics. I love graphics programming. So I took all of its graphics code and eventually threw all that out and did it myself. But it gave me that first rough draft. From like, once you have that, then you're like, oh, okay, I see what I like in this, I see what I don't like in this, and you start modifying it. And yeah, I fed it, the README, the functional spec, the technical spec, and the app description, so it could do all that kind of stuff. And I bounced around on a lot of things. Like, at first, I wasn't using iCloud because I thought, well, I don't privacy and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I don't want to do any network activity. But then I realized, oh wait, I own like 30 different devices. I want to have my people distance on all the different apps and not have to mess with files or anything like that. So added iCloud and things like that. So a lot of those little refinements came later, but I definitely got the rough draft from the AI first. Um, it's really bad at seeing kid in Swift. It's impressively bad at it.
I could see like one of the things that why I feel like I've been relatively successful with is that a lot of the applications that I write are big numbers on the screen. And that usually is very different. No, I mean, like I've been building some relatively, complex applications like feedback flow, but inherently even feedback flow is just kind of standard HTML, CSS, Razor, function, C sharp, there's some new things in there like, the Microsoft extensions AI work to call, Azure OpenAI. And then there's a bunch of APIs and stuff, but nothing is necessarily like, a crazy 3D system. Although I was building a game recently last week
Oh, fun.
with 3JS, which again, 3JS, pretty standard, right? So I think when you think of the amount of open source projects and even source samples from Apple on CKit, on the AR kit, on even these trued up sensors, probably not as much. I mean, there are docs and you can probably have it like parse and read the docs to enhance it, but it may not actually get you as far
Apple?
as
James, Apple docs? Apple doesn't document anything. We could probably have it go through all the header files and maybe learn a bit more from that.
there you
Well,
go.
it's always it's the subtle things on iOS. Like when it first generated the little eyeball overlay. So if you get the app, it puts two little circles where your eyeballs are. Um, it put those into a separate overlay view, and it could not get the safe margins, the layout safe margins correct on the iPhone. Why? Because no one gets that stuff right. It's one of the
Yeah.
hardest parts of iPhone programming is getting all the safe area margins correct. And that was annoying. It kept trying to throw in animation because it loves CSS animation. So I guess it's always trying to do Swift animation. But when you're trying to keep like a human face from a camera feed in sync with two little eyeballs, you can't have lag.
Yeah.
It's weird if the two little eyeballs start moving around independently of each other and they're a little bit behind. It's like it gives you a real uncanny valley feeling real fast. And so, I had to apply my knowledge of how to actually put it into lockstep and make sure it's whatever grid I'm drawing, whatever I'm presenting on screen, I have those perfectly in lockstep. So there's still a tiny bit of drift, but that's up to Apple's face recognition kind of lag, not any kind of graphical lag or anything like that. So it's funny. Like I do love these AIs. I would never go back to the world without them. But I'm glad I'm still employable for at least a couple more years because of my 20 years of graphics experience.
There's always going to be new APIs, and I think the fit, finish, and polish, right, is always like the very nuanced things that you want to, what you want to do, and that's hard on a file new project, right? When it's just like, here, go create this. It doesn't know what you exactly the vibe that you're going for. Do you want it to be straight, normal Swift UI? Do you want styles? Do you want it to be this? Do you want it to be that? Compared to like, hey, here's my styles, here's my things, here's my existing application. I just want to add this new feature, and it can like gather the context, for example, in the rest of your application, your styles and things that exist. The hardest part is like, and the test I do often, you'll see on my channel, is I built this like pet application that we built. Amanda and Mario did the Octopets, which I've done. I call it simple pet apps, but I did it at the VS Code Dev Days. It's a very simple prompt. It's like, hey, I want to create basically a hybrid between like Bring Fido and meetup.com, like to say, hey, I'm a pet owner, you're a pet owner. Let's go like do a meetup and let's go to these pet friendly locations. Right. And you have a pet directory, you have a venue directory, and you can rate the venues, things like that. And you can search and do filtering. So the thing that I always like to do is I say, hey, here's a base, project. The file new project exists. and I'm just going to give you a bunch of images, right? Just like I have a bunch of stock images, right, to make my application look good. And I say, hey, go create a PRD, a products requirement document for this idea that I had. So I give it that idea. It does this whole spec. And that's the first test. What is in that PRD? What did it do? If something minimal, ask it for an MVP, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, go create a landing page, a marketing landing page for this application, and go. Right. I don't give it any. I do say like pink gradients. I say, give me pink gradients. That's the and light theme and dark theme. And up to then, it then decides what goes on the page, what styles, what's theming. Is it rounded corners? Is it that? Is it animations? Is it whatever? And every time you do it, it's going to be a little bit different. But each AI is pretty distinct in how it wants to set up that base style sheet, basically, and what the base styles look like. So, you know, it's hard because it's just going to think that here's what you want. So in this case, it may be like, yeah, here's what you want all these animations and all this stuff, of course, because that's what it thinks you want, or at least the training data it has is here's what a kind of a good application looks like. It has this thing and that thing and this thing, right? So it just kind of like does the thing. And it's impressive that it was able to do some of that stuff, though. In general, it may not be what you wanted, but kind of impressive.
Oh, absolutely. Because the Apple docs are terrible. So at least for cutting through the Apple docs, like I've done this face recognition a few times. One of my dream apps I keep trying to write, I just haven't been able to perfect it, is an app that'll 3D print like glasses for you, customized to your face. So they're super comfortable on your face. And so like you take in a scan of the face and figure out all the geometry of the glasses to rest nicely on your nose and all that kind of stuff. And I'd just written that app 2 months ago, something like that, and already I forgot all the APIs needed to like get that face scan in and everything. So the AI was fantastic for cutting through that. Where I think the AI was, and I don't even want to say this is a bad thing, but it was sometimes a little too fast for me. I'm used to thinking through an app a tiny bit more. So I was talking about, I did like the functional spec. I did a description of what I wanted the app to do, but I didn't sit back and like think like, oh, okay, what does the very first screen of this app look like? What does the button look like that's going to actually do the scan? Does that take it to a whole new UI, or is it an integrated thing? These are the questions, honestly, I'll usually ponder for like a month.
Yeah.
They just sit there in the back of my head, and I'm like, okay, now I've decided that's what the home screen's going to look like, and then I go code it. With the AI, it's just like, here's your home screen. I'm like, oh, geez, okay, okay, that's the home screen. I guess. Do I like that? So I think it was good because it gets you out of that kind of writer's block where you're maybe overthinking it and you just kind of need to dive in. But at the same time, I did miss the little bit of like, when I first thought of the app, I thought it would take you directly into like the scanning mode, but I'm like, no, it's actually better if it doesn't. Like, it should actually present like a nice calm UI, and you can
Yeah.
hit a plus button or a button to actually get into the scanning mode. Might be a little freaky if you just download an app off the internet and it just starts scanning your face immediately. Yeah. So pros and cons, because like, yeah, I appreciate that it just jumps right in. At the same time, I'm like, ooh, maybe I did need to take a few more seconds of thought, because like I was saying, I didn't do like wireframes or anything for it. I think like a real good functional spec would have wireframes of like, here's the general app flow, the clicks and the things that a user is going to have to do to accomplish different tasks. I didn't outline any of those details, and I felt a little bit rushed for those.
Did you feel rushed because the AI agent was kind of like going, or because like
Because it's just like, here's a screen, yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah,
it just throws you in, and it's
it
like, here's an
does.
app, and you're like, oh, is that the right way, or is that just the most convenient way that it thought of, or is that you don't know why it generated the screen that it did? Is
Yes.
is it because it has gigabytes of documentation that a user experience studies, or is it because I said I wanted a button to bring up a scanning thing, and so it put
Yeah.
a screen with a button on it? It's
Yeah.
hard to tell sometimes the why of it all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I feel like that is one of the trickier parts, is the user flow, right? That's
Hmm.
and that's that polish part of it. Like, okay, we have the base here, now we can like start to move pieces around. How did you validate this thing? Did you also then, had you previously held a ruler up to your eyes and measured it?
Yeah, I was actually upset because back home I actually did have some really high tech scans of my face done, so I could have gotten some very precise measurements. I didn't have any of that with me because I was on assignment at the time, and so I validated it by running around the house and scanning every single person I could find, and then putting a tape measure up to their face. Sorry, everyone.
Nice.
Yeah, and during that validation, I realized that the sensors aren't perfect. You know, like I said, they're off by a millimeter, sometimes even 2 millimeters. So that's why multiple scans definitely makes sense to get rid of that kind of error. Uh, that's probably the part I'm most nervous about with this app. It was the part that I was most nervous about getting the app approved with, because like I wasn't sure. I've never done, and I kept debating, is this a health app? It's not a health app. It's just a measurement app. It's scanning.
Measurement app.
But anything that has to do with physiology tends to get thrown into the health bucket. And then you
Yeah.
got all sorts of privacy things. We got to talk about how many times this app was rejected through app review.
Well, you're not using
So
HealthKit, right? So
I'm not, but I was going to upload, I was going to submit the data to HealthKit because I think there are some measurement data that you can actually
ah,
put into HealthKit, but I didn't want to do it for V1, mostly because I'm afraid of any app that touches HealthKit because Apple gets really crazy about
yeah.
everything.
Well, what were
Um,
other rejections from? Was it just because they thought it was health related, and anything health related probably has to have like privacy policies and like legal reviews and doctor approval? Like, I think you have to go through like like even on the watch, right? They have to get the certification for all the sensors and all the things, and it has to go through
yeah.
like health boards and things like that.
Well, I didn't have to get doctor approved, thank goodness. But because this isn't affecting your health, and it's not giving you any judgments on your health, it's just measuring. What you do with that data is up to you. But Apple was very strict about the privacy policy, and they
Mm,
wanted to know exactly what data it was collecting and whether I was describing all that data to the user. So, for example, I am not uploading any of that data to a server or anything like that. This is a fully local app with the one caveat that it actually uploads the data to your iCloud. But Apple says iCloud is secure. It's up to Apple to make iCloud secure. That part should be secure. That said, so my privacy policy was pretty basic in the beginning, and they rejected it out of hand right away. They said this privacy policy is not adequate. I'm like,
is
but
it?
I'm not collecting any data.
Isn't the data like one number?
Uh, yeah, I actually explained it. It's in a total of 6 numbers. It's the measurement and error margin, the left eye measurement and error margin, the right eye measurement and error
Mm.
margin. 6 numbers. That is the totality of the data. I don't know why I'm holding up 4 fingers. 6 numbers is the totality of the data. And it's kind of funny. Well, they were mostly concerned with, because I am accessing the true depth camera, taking
Yeah.
pictures of faces, they wanted to know whether I was recording any of that. And in my app description, uh, yeah, I guess just in the app description, I was very clear. I'm not recording any of the actual true depth data. I'm using the true depth data, but I'm whittling it down to these 6 numbers in the
Yeah.
end. And that needed to be put directly into the privacy policy because Apple said, that's wonderful, but you have to tell the users all this stuff. And it doesn't matter. See, I always took the privacy policy as data I'm collecting.
Yeah.
And so when I fill out the like little Apple form, it says, are you collecting data? I'm like, nope. This is the user's data. It's on their device. It's just theirs. But they said, not good enough. You actually have to enumerate exactly what data you are recording and where it's being recorded. So my very first rejection was, your privacy policy is not adequate.
Um, See, I always like nowadays the privacy policy in terms of use, like it really terrifies me because I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm just an app
Yeah.
developer. I'm not a lawyer. I mean, good thing they have lawyers and they have, you know, these folks that can review these policies and make sure that you're probably correct. You know, protecting you is protecting them, and you know, around and around it goes, right? So
Yeah.
protecting the user at the end of the day, which is nice. So Yeah, and I see it's like actually there's like a big button in the application, and I was reading because that was the first thing Heather said too. Was she's like, "Oh, is Frank recording my face data now?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and I was
Turns
like,
out the
"No."
reviewer thought so too. Yeah.
I was like, Frank
Um,
wouldn't do that.
so that was my second rejection. Within the app itself, they required, so in the App Store, there's the EULA, which is the Apple standard EULA, and then a link to the privacy policy. But within the app itself, you
Mm,
need a link to both the EULA and the privacy policies. That was my second rejection. Um, that was a little bit funny because like I after like really defending the app and all my privacy decisions, because I thought I did a good job on privacy, so I'm feeling very defensive writing to them. They're like, that's fine. Now you got to put the links in the app. I'm like, oh, I guess that's a little bit obvious. Didn't even occur to me. I'm like, isn't your app store good enough? But no one goes to the app store after they get the app.
yeah, no, I've definitely seen that in a few recent things where like every single app in the about me has like all these deep links and all this stuff. I appreciate. I mean, I think for this type of application, it makes a lot of sense to put it there, and it's not like blocking anything or doing anything, which is good. It's for all intents and purposes like a four screen thing, which is pretty good. And it's pretty solid. I
Yeah.
want to ask about just the liquid glass effect. So here, you're
Hmm.
not doing anything special, right? You're basically just using the standard toolbar and then the navigation bar, and then you're just setting icons on left and right, and that's it basically. And then the liquid glass takes care of the rest, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I even tried to make it more glassy in some areas, and I failed. So when you're scanning, there's a blue button to actually record the scan, and I was trying to make that blue button even more glassy, and that's a glass button, but it doesn't get very glassy in that presentation. Uh, so it's funny, like toolbars and nav bars, you basically get the glass effect for free.
Yeah.
Getting the glass effect on other controls is a little bit more difficult. And a little bit for good reason. I think the OS could look tragically ugly if everything got the glass effect all over it. So
Yeah.
I think they're trying to find that happy medium. For the longest time though, when you do the glass buttons, they become monochrome. So on dark mode, they become white. On light mode, they become black. This is in contrast to all the other iOS versions that always had the tint color for the buttons.
Mm,
And so for the longest time, I'm like, am I doing something wrong? What is going on here? Why am I not getting any colors here? And I was really hacking away at all the APIs and everything. And then I finally opened up Safari. I'm like, oh, they removed all the color. That's part of the glass effect now. So that was a little bit trippy to deal with. And then, like I said, there's the icon also, which I don't know. I just don't get the glass effect very well through the icons. I keep rotating my phone to try to see it, but it's just too subtle for me. Um, I'm, I hope Apple will actually exaggerate that at some point because I think put all this effort into layering the icons just perfectly and you play with all the light directions, make sure it all looks good and all your Z levels are perfect. And then it just looks like a flat icon on the home screen.
yeah, it's a really, really interesting. You know what they've really been doing is like I've been using more of iOS 26, and I've been watching apps try to update. Try. And even Apple, like let's say the email application, let's say you swipe, it brings up like a more flag archive. Those aren't glass at all. Those are just normal circle icons. And it seems like what they've really been doing is it's just really the top navigation, and then like I think a toolbar that you put anywhere on the bottom, and they love search on the bottom now. So it's really like buttons, you circle buttons on the bottom and on the top, but not really anywhere too much else inside the application. But
Hmm.
I had noticed like when you open an email specifically, it does like, little small segmented things and a few other things. I noticed that like American Airlines like updated their app, and in their release notes, like we have liquid glass, and basically they updated in the toolbar. Like the toolbar is, or the not the toolbar, but the tab navigation is updated, right?
Right.
And that's about it. But nothing else is like none of the rest of the application kind of looks just rounded, circly, styles. But then I noticed that in their toolbar, they have some standard buttons that they're clearly drawing that aren't liquid glass at all.
Yeah.
I guess their notification screen, that one is that one is using just standard navigation. So you can tell, obviously, now you can tell more than ever what things are
Yes.
using the native controls and maybe some self-drawn controls or things that aren't there. So it actually is very jarring. And I was like, I don't know if this looks better or worse. So I'm kind of fascinated to see how other applications continue to upgrade and what you need to do. But I'm kind of on that journey next, because for the skiing app that I have and the cycling app I have, my goal is by end of year is to upgrade all those to dotnet 10 and to liquid glassify them as well. That's kind of my hope, I should say. But I will say I have not seen that many apps update yet to, I know it's only been a few weeks, but it's a little everything's a little frustrating on it. But I will say this, for liquid glass, I just updated my iPhone SE2 to iOS 26, which is the last device that gets it.
Yeah, cool. And it's running okay?
And it runs really well. It runs really
Okay,
well.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I updated Kauka. So if you go get the newest version of Kauka, that one's been classified. And that one actually came out okay. I had to rearrange the buttons on the toolbar a little bit
Mm.
because I used to have different spacing between the buttons, but if you don't have space between them, then they merge into like little groups. And then I was noticing my biggest complaint with the glass effect right now in most apps is the back button generally looks terrible. They often put 3 dots there instead of like the left chevron.
Oh,
Oh, it's driving me a little bit batty. But it's a real distinguishing mark. I like the effect overall because basically the top nav bar is transparent, the bottom toolbar is transparent. There's a nice subtle blur vignetting effect on the top bar. And then if you have any interesting graphics at all, then you get that real glass effect with your buttons in
yeah.
the app. And it's been kind of worth it. I've been enjoying it. Like even it is that distinguishing feature. Like, okay, obviously this isn't just a web app that I'm hosting here that's mimicking a toolbar. This is obviously Apple's real toolbar running here because you're not going to put that stuff into a web app.
That is a good distinguishing factor. I will say also that they love animations, like they love things blending and zooming and melding into each other, and it's fine. I think the whole thing is fine. Like I'm not bothered by it. I'm not over the moon by it, but I now just want to, including my own apps, to just be updated and like have the same keyboard everywhere in my applications. You know what I mean?
The keyboard still frustrates me though. The keyboard accessory that I complained about on the last one is still
Yeah.
bothering me. The back button and the keyboard accessories. Apple still has a little bit of refinement to do on this glass effect.
Yeah, I will say this on Mac OS. I'll give my little update here. It's just like it's worse than iOS 26. I know we did a whole episode complaining about it. I will say now that I've used it for a little bit, it's fine. But whatever, it doesn't even matter. I will say, like, I think Finder upsets me a little bit more. Like there's weird things happening in Finder, and just like there's some odd things where I feel like things feel a little bit smushed, but then also bigger. I can't figure it out. Like it's
That's
like
it.
it's smushed and bigger at the same time, right?
You nailed it. You nailed it. Like the back button is now bigger, and yet there's somehow less room on it because they have to keep putting the 3 dots. They can't fit the left chevron or the word back, but it's still
Yeah.
a giant button. So you're like, what is going on
What is
here?
up? Yeah, I don't. Everything is like I don't know. So I got to play with it a little bit more, but I'm not necessarily mad at it. It's fine, but it's not. It's not like I think it's more delightful on my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as like what's in there, but I will say I did notice that, like you said, I now understand your app icon dilemma on Mac, because they did this on Mac, but they did this before too. I think they're on iOS before too. But yeah, basically your app icon is like inside of like it's inside of like an egg, and it's like, let me out of here. It's inside of like it's an app icon inside of an app icon. You're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I need to. It's like really bad. So like
Yeah.
it's really like a subtle shaming of the
Mm-hmm.
applications. They did not do that on iPhone, by the way. They did not do that on iPhone. So
No, and and I kind of get why like they changed the grid a bit, but it's mean. It's just mean because every old app looks old. You run it, you're like, God, what is that from the Unix era or something like that? No, it's literally 3 months old. The developer just hasn't had time to get to it. But once again, I'll just plug my blog entry for everyone go update your app icons because you don't want to have the old style. It looks terrible on Tahoe.
Well, I'll say this. I really like your app. I love, here's the thing about apps that we released this week. It's an app that does one thing really well. Like, wow, it did it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I will say, I think it's really nice. I don't need it because I don't need glasses, but if I did, it's really
Look at you.
nice. So now I can delete it, but I am interested to see if like the pro upgrade stuff works out for you. Like there's a lot of people that have glasses, obviously. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how that goes. I could see someone that wants to kind of monitor their families, people's stuff.
Yeah. The monetization was hard for this one because it is such a small app. I was like, oh, maybe I'll make a free app. But then I'm like, oh, I'm putting actually a bit of effort into this thing. So I'll
Yeah.
just ask. So it is a free app. You can get it. It'll run. It'll give you data. Good to go. You'll be fine. But if you want to nerd out and have lots of little numbers and little fun features, then you can give me a few dollars,
Yeah.
2 cups of coffee, and then you can have the fun little features too.
I like that. It's good. Well, I also did build an app, as I'm sure you saw. Did you? I don't know how you even saw it.
I got an email. So instead of you gave up on the socials. So now I just get emailed whenever you do something. So I got an email from you. It was quite a long email too. So I got a marketing from you. And it talked about all sorts of things. But basically, you wrote an app that allows you to paste something into, not paste, but have a hotkey to put some text into any running app. Is that it?
Okay. So
Pitch it to me.
I use Ghost as my blog platform, and Ghost upgraded the last several years to basically be a blog platform, but also a newsletter platform. So if you had subscribed to my newsletter in the past, whenever I write a blog, I can also just send an email. So I wrote a blog post about this app. And that's why you got it. You basically just get the whole blog post in your inbox. Fascinating enough. You'll get another one this week. I'll see how much far it goes down. I'll be fascinated. But I can also just send newsletters. It's very fascinating. I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet. I haven't tried it yet, but I was like, I'll press the button, see what happens. And then I got the email. I was like, oh, that's what happens. Okay, so I make a lot of videos. I do a lot of demos. And I was recording a video for my channel. And the very first thing I do in the video is I write a prompt into a box in VS Code. So I write like a good, almost like a paragraph. And I sat there for like a half an hour re-recording this intro over and over and over again because all my typos and spacing, and I wouldn't get it right. So I was like, okay, what if I have Notepad open over here and I just like do this over and over again? I was like, this is ridiculous. And I said, so I went to Bing Google and I said, and I need an application that takes text and types it back as if I was typing it into an entry box, right? And I had an app a long time ago that someone had shown me on the Mac that did this. And you could basically have a bunch of hotkeys and then you say, Control Shift 1. That's what I programmed in this case, Control Shift 1. And then whatever text entry box you're in, it types back the text at a different variable speed. And that's all it does. That's the only thing I wanted it to do. And I couldn't find an app on Windows that does this. I'll tell you a funny story here in a second, where someone shamed me. But I was like, you know what? I could search for another 30 minutes and install and go to a bunch of sketchy websites, or I could legitimately just go and open up VS Code. I open up VS Code on my machine. I also have VS 2026 installed. So I have .NET 10 installed, the RC. And I wrote one line. I said, I need a simple .NET application that allows me to enter some text into a box and have a hotkey that types it back into another application entry field. That was like one sentence. The keyword simple application. So what did it build, Frank?
A WinForms app.
Yes.
And the exact kind of WinForms app I would write, because the main form is called Form 1. I'm surprised the project's not called Project 1. Project 1 with Form 1.
Yeah.
It brought back so many nostalgic little heartbeats. It was quite lovely to see that. I looked at your code. You made it open source. I didn't
I
make mine
did.
open source.
Yeah, so it did it. It's called it named it hot. I called it. I actually, what did I even put it in? I don't know what I put it in. I put it in a folder. And it named it hotkey typer. That was it. It named
Oh,
the
oh,
application.
mhm.
So it did it, and yeah, it created a .NET 10 application in WinForms, and yeah, Form 1 and a Form 1 designer.cs, and it built everything in C# code behind. So there's a designer folder, but it just wrote the designer code for you. And it's gotten more complex now because I've added more features to it. But for
Of
all
course.
intents and purposes, it uses user32 DLL DLL imports. It registers a hotkey,
Classic.
unregisters a hotkey. It gets foreground windowing, sets foreground windowing, and then it has like a key typer, which are all DLL imports basically from user32, good old user32 hanging around. And yeah, it now has two mechanisms of input. The first mechanism is a big entry box, and another one now is a text or markdown file. Just give me a file, I will read it and type it back. That's a feature that's there. I wanted to be really simple. I just wanted a slider, and I wanted to say type it, um, and that was it. I played around with a few different hotkeys. I'll probably have programmable hotkeys in the future, but I wanted a hotkey that like no one really uses, and Control-Shift-1 doesn't seem like it's, at least on Windows, like a hotkey. Um,
I don't use it for anything. Not that I can
yeah,
think of.
not
Yeah.
that I can think of. But maybe I'll do some other one, or let it be programmable in the future.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you just enter the text, and it like puts it out, and it works. It like built the application. The initial prototype took about 5 minutes to build, and I used it in the video within 5 minutes. Like I built it, and then I was like, here, it's done. And it's cool because there's NVS code, so it's like .NET Run, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could just run a .NET 10 app. I don't need the full VS, right, to do a WinForms app, only for the designer. But I was like, if I don't need the designer, it's just buttons. It's like literally legitimately the most simple application in the world, basically. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, I did it.
can I just I thought I knew every Win32 API. Not to brag, but I used to be a good Win32 programmer. I thought I knew
Mm-hmm.
every single one of them. I never knew about send input. It's kind of scary. You can just, send input to any old thing. Like, I would have thought you'd like fake being a keyboard or write some kind of driver thing to be a virtual keyboard or anything. No, no, send input. And I guess I should have known that because you can always just send Windows messages to any old thread or window handle that you want on the operating system. I don't think they've ever really narrowed that down, but much nicer one just called send input. It's funny too, though. Your blog entry mentioned like, or is it in the README, something you were saying? There are some tricks with send input, like it handles parentheses, kind of funny. So even these little apps, even these very simple, I just want to send some text to a window, it still takes a little bit of thought and bug fixing. It's funny.
It did, yeah. Well, the funny part was, so after I built the app, I added a few features to it, but pretty much that was it. Like I added the ability to like stop because that was kind of important. But it actually wrote the entire minimizing to system. Like I've never written an app that like minimizes to the system tray, the tray
Right.
icons, on the bottom right. I never just done one because I don't, I've just never had the need. And it just like wrote the code like in one shot at it, and I was like, okay, cool. Like that, I like actually learned the API how to do it. And I was like, oh, that's not that complex. And then
Mm-hmm.
it
I like that you
um
generate that icon dynamically too. Like you're like, I'm not gonna draw that icon. I'm gonna have 30 lines of code draw that icon for me.
so okay, so I write this vlog, so I do the video, and I write this blog post. I write it. I ask Copilot to like write the blog post. So GitHub Copilot wrote the blog post. The blog is in the repo, by the way. It's just in there. I fixed it up. I cleaned it up a little bit, right, but barely. Because I just wanted kind of high level TLDR and some fun facts about some cool APIs, which obviously you found relatively nifty. I wish I had an LLM that was trained on my blog because then it would have my voice.
Ah,
That's my next project to do. But I was like, this is pretty solid, and then I was like, you know what, I need an app icon, and I was like, I don't know how to do Win32. I think it's an ICO, right, an ICO file, and I
mhm.
was like, I don't know, like I bet if I tell Copilot to generate an app icon, it will like create a script and a sample application, create the SVG, and then export it to ICO and then import it in here. And I thought that it was going to do, because that's normally what it does for like iOS and Android or like other things. No, it
Yeah.
legitimately, like you said, it wrote a file called Icon Factory, and it does like like, who knew that you could even do this? I had no
I,
idea. Everything it's doing, like system drawing, and it makes a little circle with a gradient, of course, and it puts a HT inside of it that it draws for the system icon, the app icon, the system icon, and the app icon inside of it. And it even does proper, like, handle destruction and all this other stuff. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I asked it, I was like, it did that first. And I was like, are you sure that's what you want to do? I'm like, can't you just generate the icon? It's like, I could if you want me to, but it's like, this is easier. I was like,
and it's
okay.
tunable, man. What do you want?
Yeah. I was like, all
Oh, I
right,
love it.
I was like, actually kind of cool, because I could, if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it, but technically I could then make the app icon like user settable. I could have different gradient colors and different things on it. Like you pick upgrade, pro upgrade, Um,
Yeah. One more time. I thought I know this is GDI plus programming. GDI is the graphic system.
mhm,
Linear gradient brush, not the easiest thing to use. You always got to read the docs like 5 times to remember how to use linear gradient brush. So it's
yeah.
nice that the AI just kind of blopped that out onto you. And I like the subtle detail. The text rendering hint. You grid fit the clear type so you don't get bad aliasing on subpixel rendering. That's very tasteful of you / the AI.
I appreciate it. No,
That
I
is pro
appreciate it.
stuff, pro level there.
It's pretty, because there's probably there's got to be like a crap ton of WinForms code that it's been able to train on. You know what I
Tons,
mean? For
tons.
Win30, like the drawings, the drawing
Before
API.
JavaScript, it was all Windows code out there, right?
So much of it is all out there. So I did this and I put out this blog post, and then Hanselman's like, we put that in Zoom it 2 years ago in sysinternals, and I was like, you know what? I swear I did see this demo. So then I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, well, I don't know. It's fun. My app just does it. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, system internals. I'm like, if it's not in Power Toys, I don't want to install it. And there's like, we also put Zoom it inside of Power Toys. I was like, damn it, So anyways, I have it. So inside of Power Toys, there is one. Mine's better.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Now that
There we
being
go.
said, mine is better. But John Galloway on my team, he's like, wow, this is really cool. I try to use Zoom it, but there's a bug with doing like C# code. It won't work. He's like, I try to open an issue and no one will fix it. And I was like, you got to ask Scott about it, because apparently he put it in in Zoom it, 2 years
Oh
ago or
boy.
whatever. So it was like really fun. It was like a fun like
That's funny.
Friday like team
Yeah.
vibe happening in the chat, maybe Thursday or whatever I did it. And
Mhm.
so I texted my application, and sure enough, it didn't work. It actually didn't work. And it threw an exception because like different keys and different things have like funkiness. So I said, hey, listen, I have this code that I have in the inbox, or the text input, and it throws this exception or whatever. And I'm pretty sure, let me look here. There is in form1.cs, I'm pretty sure at the way bottom. Let me see. It like does some weird escaping. Oh yeah, it's called escape for send keys. So you have to like basically put like squiggly braces for certain characters to actually send them correctly for like new lines or tabs or things like that. So you have to send certain things across the wire. So escape a single character for send keys so that source code or other literal text, including parentheses, plus caret percent signs, can be typed without triggering send keys grouping or modifier semantics. And it just like wrote the code. I was like, holy crap, that's so good. And then I was testing it, and I had it add the progress bar for different speed. And I realized if you had it at really high speed, that however the send key would work, it would like miss a character, just like one character here and
Oh.
there. You can't have that. So what I found is that between 1 and 10, if you set it at 8, it would work every time, but 9 or 10, no. So crazily enough, I was like, you know what? Can you add a has code button and put a check mark in the thing? I should auto have it detect it. But then I was like, and now can you limit the progress bar, the track bar slider, that if they check that checkbox, it limits it to 8. And then it wrote a custom track bar that it did Win32 drawing, system drawing on it. And it like do a custom thumb, and it does like it does a whole. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, this is the most over, like not over engineer, but it's like, I don't know, just like ridiculous, but kind of cool. I was like, I couldn't. I know it's only like 100 lines of code, but I was like, I'm not, I no longer remember like draw. It uses like, system drawing 2D. I was like, that's so cool. Anyways, so I put it out, and I was like, man, how do I get this out into the world? Right. That was the next thing. And
you didn't do what I would suggest, though. So I'll let you say what you did, and then I'll tell you what you should do.
Okay. So what I did, yes, I don't like what I did, but I was like, the first thing was, so what it did was like, I wrote the README, it wrote the README, and it's like clone the repo and then build the source code. That's not good enough. So then what I did is I said, I don't know, I said, can you write a GitHub action that will, build this application, bundle up the archive in a self-contained application.
Yeah.
And then it did it. And then after that, and then I was like, make the version, your pro tip that we did for my other app that I released was make the version number the same as the version number 0.0 dot whatever the GitHub build is. And then asked a few suggestions, which were really cool. Like it was like, oh, do you want me to do, matrix? Like, do you want me to build an x64 and an ARM64 build? Do you want me to do this thing and that thing? I was like, I don't know, do it, right? So it did publish a single file. It includes the native libraries for self-extract, enables compression in single file, publish ready to run, publish run to run show warnings, debug type none, debug symbols false. And then it just publishes it out basically into a self-contained exe, not signed. So not signed, of course. And then I was like, can you upload that to a GitHub release for me? And it was like, cool, I got you. And then it did it. So now like you can go to the GitHub page, you can download a GitHub release. And then obviously there's no updater. Although it did say like the next thing, I was like, can you write a bunch of issues of improvements? And literally the first issue is Windows installer packaging MSIX plus self-contained option. Like it wrote that for me. It was like, I could just do this. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. So yeah.
Pretty cool. There aren't enough self-contained stuff. Like every time I get into the Windows world and I download an app, I'm always still surprised when they're like, and now make sure that you have the right version of .NET. I'm like, guys, we've had publish for like the last 5 years now. You can just make these things self-contained now. It's such a good technology. Everyone should be doing it. I will make fun of you though, 45 megabytes compressed for a hotkey app. So that's a little absurd. I think you can turn on trimming, sir, and get that size down quite a bit. You should be able to get it actually very small since you're just a thin layer over some Win32 calls. But that's cool. Actually, I was going to suggest you make a .NET global tool. So then people can just type .NET install minus .NET tool install -G hotkey type of thing. If you do decide to go the installer route, I would not do an installer. I would put it up on the store. But I know putting WinForms app up on the store takes a few extra steps, but I'm sure the AI can help you with that.
Yeah, I think so too. In fact, I think it said like you have to use the bridge or whatever and all this other stuff. Yeah, no, I think that is sort of the next step. But I will say, like, I think I'm pretty happy that I went from zero to idea to package in like under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Including the bug fixes.
See, I don't even know the Windows security model anymore. So are these zip files just a .exe inside the zip file? There's no installer?
Nope, you just extract the
and
zip.
Windows is okay with that?
It gives you a nice big blue box that says, are you sure you want to run this? And you say, yes, please.
Okay.
Yes. So.
And then it's fine. That's it. Okay.
That's fine. Then it just runs.
Because Apple still makes you go through the whole, like, you got to go up to security settings and actually give it permission to run.
It's fine.
So that's fine.
It's like when you open it, there's only one button that says cancel. Like it's like, are you want to run? But then you have to hit more info, and then it says like run untrusted, and then it's like, are you sure you want to run untrusted? And you're like, yes. So yeah.
Maybe you do want to make an installer then.
No one's going to use this app, Frank. So
I know. I
That's
know.
that's
It's
the
good
problem.
practice, though.
It is good practice. Well, I have a few issues that it is going to do. I'm going to be able to save multiple snippets soon and do quick selection and a bunch of
See,
other stuff.
they
So
always
I'm
get
gonna
bigger.
they get bigger. So I'm like, yeah, do that. And it's like, do you want me to write migration code? And I was like, no. I was like, just. I was like,
Stop
just.
it. Stop it.
Yeah,
Auto update. Checks the internet. Put it up on a web
exactly.
server.
Yeah, and it's crazy now because I am having the coding agent do a bunch of stuff for me, and oh, wow, it wrote a lot of code. That's fantastic. And the first thing it wanted to do is all the runners just updated. So the runners now include .NET 8 and .NET 9, which is great. The Linux runners, but they don't include .NET 10, obviously, because it's RC. So the first thing it did is try to downgrade the application to .NET 9. It's like, no, let me do the
Stop it.
runner and the installer, and like it updated it to .NET 10, which is fine for the.
Yeah.
There's a work .github / workflows, and you create a Copilot setup steps, and then it's basically just a normal one. You just do .NET setup 10.0.x or whatever, and the RC builds are there, so that's really convenient, which is great. That go live license, baby. And I like
Oh,
that
I'm
it picked up that I had .NET 10 on my machine and just did a .NET 10 app by default, which is kind of crazy. So that's
I'm
cool.
making use of that go live thing because we mentioned this before. If you want to have Xcode 26 and Tahoe 26 support for your iOS apps written in .NET, you actually have to use RC1 of .NET 10. Oddly enough, though, you're still using .NET 9. The TFM is Net 9.0-iOS 26, but you need the .NET 10 SDK and the version 10
Nice.
workloads.
Oh
Just
wow,
in case you thought you had a handle on how versioning works, this is here to really mess up your brain.
that's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm excited to go down that rabbit hole next. But it's going to be around the corner any day now. Well, we're going to get RC2 soon, and then full
Okay,
GA, so that's exciting.
good.
Um, yeah. Anyways, I
Well,
built
that's
that
fun.
app. Built an app.
I'm happy. We both wrote apps this week. Pretty good. We're
Yeah.
back to our old selves. We're out of the summer humdrum,
Yeah.
back to winter mode of just coding, coding, coding.
I think so. I think you know we did have a comment. I want to close out this comment. This show, Frank, our hour-long episode. Um, talking about comments from our listeners, and we last week did a listener bag episode. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Jim wrote in and
Hi,
pretty
Jim.
long email, and I appreciate it. No comments on the YouTube, but we did get a nice email, and it said Jim wrote in. You can go to mergeconflict.fm. There's a contact us button, and you can write an email to us, and we get it. So Jim says, I've been meaning to send this email for a while, but given your feedback last week, I really wanted to thank you for your emphasis on vibe coding. Well, he said, I love it. And I swear this is actually an email that's in our inbox. I swear.
Okay, you're not.
I did not vibe this email. He said, as someone without a lot of time who kind of knows how to code, but not really, this vibe coding thing has improved my ability to play with technology. I like that. I used to have the time to tinker, but life gets busy and I haven't had time for years. Till vibe coding came along. Now I can make little toy apps and I really enjoy it. And I really appreciate the two of you exploring and explaining things because though vibe coding is somewhat self-explanatory, in another way, it's absolutely not self-explanatory. So hearing two seasoned professionals, wow, that's a big, those are big words there. Seasoned professionals explore and banter about it really helps understand the nuances of vibe coding. I wish every episode was about vibe coding, but more than that, I do what you find interesting because that makes episodes interesting. Thank you. Thanks, Jim, for the email. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. And in a way, I think every episode will be about vibe coding because I think vibe coding is just, you not coding at all and going from scratch and just talking to an AI. But at the same time, I constantly use AIs while programming now. I'm never going to turn back. It'd be like turning IntelliSense off or turning off IDE features. So in a sense, like vibe coding will be just coding.
Yeah.
We can lose the adjective at some point when all the marketing hype is down, because this is just how coding is going to be done in the future. And I really appreciate the comment about writing more, not even just toy stuff, but like I probably wouldn't have tackled my one day app if I didn't know I could rely on an AI doing some of the humdrum parts of it for me. It really frees me up because like we always talk about that last 80% of an app, and just knowing you have an assistant out there to help you through that last 80% and to keep you moving. I think it inspires all of us, and I hope we're all coding more.
I, I love that. And not just coding more, but getting, getting more done on projects that you really want to get done. I think of our holiday hacks, right?
Mhm.
And normally during our holiday hacks, if people are new to the pod, Frank and I usually around the holidays always have a holiday hack of something we want to build. And that's actually how, or did build. And that's how some of my little Arduino stuff happened. That's how some of my mobile apps got made. And I would spend, over the holidays, usually 2 weeks, and build out like a thing, like one thing. And it's pretty, relatively polished. Maybe I ship it to the App Store. Maybe I'm in a demo test flight state. But I'd build something relatively real. And so would you. I do feel like this year will be a little bit different, where we will either be building multiple things if we come up with it,
Oh
and
boy.
or the thing that we build will be like more polished than we ever maybe thought that we could, or more
Mhm.
features as well onto it that maybe we thought we ever could. Only because my new thing, and Pierce and I were doing some live coding on Friday, and we're building this game out, this little 3JS, 2D side scroller game, which is pretty fun to build. And I was like, oh, what else should we add? He's like, I don't know, ask it what we should add. It's like he has the context. It's like it has the context of understanding 2D side scrollers, what this is, what other games have, XYZ. I was like, I don't know, just ask it for like 5 suggestions. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. And then it did it. It's like, oh, you should probably have like a loading page and this thing and all this other stuff. And it's the same thing. Like I built this out. It's called Pink Puff Quest because it's a
Fantastic.
Jigglypuff game. And I put it up on static web apps. It's actually a Vite application. I know nothing about it. And then I just was like, what else should I do? And it's like, oh, you should have this. You should have settings. You should have this thing. You should have this how to play. You should. I was like, yep, I should have all those things. And yeah, you just start to play and jump around and you try to collect these things and you get the extra make things go to sleep. I don't know. I just like built a really fun game, prototype. And I was talking about like how usually kind of like prototype things for games in geometry. So I was like, I'm going to build this, and it's going to be only geometry, like nothing else, right? Just how I used to
Yeah.
build stuff back in the day. And I was like, wow, it's actually like quite fun. And of course, I added some confetti. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. I think like I wouldn't have thought about building something like that or where even get started with it. And and some of those things are pure vibes, right? But then some of the other stuff
Mhm.
isn't. Like you said, like you might start with vibes, then okay, now we're getting into some real work and we're getting stuff done, and then we're doing this thing, we're adding this thing. And you start to go a little bit deeper on the planning part of it, like you're saying. And then sometimes you do a little bit of cleanup, at the end of the day. And sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
this is good enough. And then sometimes you're like, I'm gonna spend a little bit more time and finesse this thing. So yeah, appreciate the comment and keep it coming. That's going to do it for this elongated Emerge Conflicts. So until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.